Hi, my name is Hilma, and this is my life as an Iranian American, or just a person in general, because not every life experience has to do with your nationality, although quite a lot of it does. Like the general stability and prosperity that you can expect for your own future directly ties back to the stability and prosperity of the country in which you were born in or currently live in, which is a scary thing to think about. And a lot of my life experience directly ties back to the fact that I am a dual national citizen of both the United States and Iran. In the intro episode of this series, I went over how I was born in Alabama, and then when I was about 7 years old, my mom packed up my brother and I and moved us to Iran to escape my father's misbehavior. And then we moved back to America when I was about 17 years old, and I've been living in Chicago ever since. In this episode, I want to focus more on my current life circumstance and mental state given what Iran is going through right now. I believe today is March 10th of 2026, so approximately 2 months ago, the people of Iran took to the streets by the millions to protest for their basic human rights, and the Islamic Republic responded by slaughtering over 40,000 of those civilians and arresting and detaining and kidnapping and disappearing many, many more. So the situation was dire. The internet was shut off in the country, like for everyone. So we were not able to get in touch with our friends and family, and they were not able to communicate with the outside world, which is terrifying. So that went on for quite some time. And then about a week ago, the United States began strikes against the Islamic Republic and eliminated the supreme leader Ali Khamenei. And Khamenei's demise is really an occasion to celebrate for the entire world. I invite all of you to take some joy in the fact that one of the most evil human beings on the face of the earth was disposed of last week. So that was really good news. The fact that there is basically an ongoing war in Iran is not so great. I will say, and I've said this on my Instagram account quite a lot, the people of Iran, I won't say for the most part because I don't have actual statistics, but a sizable population of Iranians do not fear American bombs to the same extent that they fear the continued survival of the Islamic Republic. That is the level of desperation these people have reached to where they're like, we'll take war, just don't leave us with these people. And one of my fears is that the current strikes against the Islamic Republic will uh, stop, that they will retreat, and that the people of Iran will be left with a wounded and angry regime that will take its revenge on the civilian population. So I really hope that my government over here disposes of the government over there. And that's just a very strange position to find yourself in. I do take pride in the fact that some of my tax money went to eliminating Khamenei. I get to claim that for the rest of my life because I'm an American taxpayer and I pay taxes to the US government, and the government funds the military, and the military funds operations such as the one that eliminated Khamenei. Therefore, I helped eliminate Khamenei. By whatever fraction of a cent that comes down to, I helped. So that's good. And as far as what happens next, I really don't know. I don't know what the US military is planning. I don't know how the Islamic Republic will retaliate. And I don't know what Israel is going to do in the middle of all this. But those are the three main parties involved in this conflict. And my hope for the result of all this is that there will no longer be an Islamic Republic, that this regime will fall. How that happens, I don't know, but I would like the regime to fall so that my people can be free. I would like the country of Iran to be returned to its people. And that is where a lot of the disagreements stem from, because people will say, oh, Israel doesn't care about you. The US is just after its own interests. They're not going to give the country back to the people of Iran. And you're all stupid and naive for hoping that they will. And it's like, we know that no other country has our best interests at heart. We are the only people who have our best interests at heart, and we are the ones suffering under the Islamic Republic. I don't live in Iran anymore, and I still suffer because the Islamic Republic exists. So just imagine someone who is actually living through this horrendous situation right now, and like their last glimmer of hope is that these bombs will free them. Like that's a level of desperation that many privileged Westerners cannot wrap their heads around. They simply cannot wrap their heads around it. And I don't expect them to. I don't expect Westerners to understand the Iranian Revolution because I don't understand what's going on in every corner of the planet. I don't know what's happening in Eastern Europe or Eastern Asia or all over Africa. I don't know. I'm not from there and I haven't sought out that information. So if Iran is just some country in the Middle East to most of the world population, then that's just what it is. If almost every person that I've met in America has asked me, like, hey, where are you from? And I'm like, I'm from Iran. And they're like, oh, so you speak Arabic? I have to pause and say, no, don't speak Arabic, I speak Persian or Farsi or however you understand that other language in the Middle East. That's what I speak. I took 6 years of Arabic in school in the Islamic Republic, but they had a terrible education system and I learned nothing of Arabic. So, no, I don't speak Arabic. I speak Farsi. Um, so, yeah, I don't expect Westerners to wrap their heads around this entire situation. That's why people like me are on the internet trying to educate others on what a sizable population of Iranians want. Again, Iranians are not a monolith. They don't all agree on everything at the same time. That would be ridiculous. And anyone who is telling you that is trying to push a political agenda. Going back to my own mental health, though, my mental health has suffered, obviously, because 40,000 people who look like me and speak my language lost their lives in the streets of their own country for wanting the opportunity to live a life similar to mine, essentially. I have a job that pays my basic bills. I have a strong enough passport to travel wherever I want in the world, pretty much. I have access to the free internet. I wake up and I get to choose how I dress and what I eat and what, if any, religion I practice. These are all things that Iranians have no access to under the Islamic Republic. And I typically have good coping mechanisms for times like this. At least I've learned better coping mechanisms for times of extreme stress and anxiety throughout the past couple years where I've been in therapy with a really good therapist. And I've been working with one of the best psychiatrists in Chicago to treat my bipolar disorder, which how I found out that I have bipolar disorder is an entirely different episode. But one thing that my therapist is really keen on is this acronym called SEEDS, SEEDS, and it stands for Sleep, Eating, Exercise, Doctor's Orders, and Sobriety. Sleep is really important to someone who has bipolar disorder. My psychiatrist has told me time and time again that it is more important than taking your meds. Like, you need good sleep. So that was a little bit affected in the past couple months. I still eat fairly healthy and I exercise 4 to 5 times a week. So I'm good there. I do take my meds, so I'm good with the doctor's orders. Sobriety. That is the tricky one, isn't it? I have addiction on top of bipolar disorder, and I also have like complex PTSD or something like that, and a touch of the tism, but those don't really affect my life anymore. Um, Sobriety and my addiction issues with marijuana are very much front and center right now. I have spent the past week high as a kite. I threw away the rest of my weed this morning because I noticed myself going down a path towards marijuana induced psychosis, which is a position I have found myself twice in the past. And again, I will go through all of that in a future episode, but I have experienced marijuana induced psychosis. I have been to psych wards all around Chicago. I have changed therapists and psychiatrists multiple times until I landed on this current combination that really works for me. And throughout this entire situation with Iran, I reached a point where I got so overwhelmed with not just the news, but to some extent my own advocacy and my activity on social media, because I did suddenly grow like a larger following on Instagram by about 10,000 people, which I'm not saying that like, oh, I'm suffering so much because I'm so popular. Like, no, that I'm not saying that. I'm saying that having all this attention on me while I'm struggling to cope with the fact that 40,000 people just died was like a really unique experience, I think. And it pushed me over the edge at one point, and I went to a dispensary near my house and bought a bunch of marijuana, and I smoked about half of it last week. It was an insane amount to be going through. I talked to a friend of mine last night, and I was like, you know that story I told you about the 2 times that I went to the psych ward because I had marijuana induced psychosis due to some really traumatic life events, both of which had to do with the Islamic Republic, mind you. And she was like, "Are you smoking weed again?" And I was like, "I'm smoking weed again." And she's like, "Stop fucking smoking weed. Like, are you out of your mind? Like, you have everything going for you right now." And I do. I have everything going for me right now. I don't have a single actual problem in my life other than the fact that this regime exists and is killing people who look like me. So like why am I trying to throw it all away because I feel bad? It makes no sense. But sometimes we do things that make no sense, and I smoked a bunch of weed last week, which now to some people that sounds like, "Oh, weed isn't addictive. Weed doesn't affect you like that. You have another issue. Weed is great for you. Weed is a natural plant and it's good for you and it's not addictive at all." People will go on and on about that. And I have to say, I'm so happy for you that you don't have any negative side effects from smoking a bunch of marijuana. I'm so jealous and envious of people who can freely partake in smoking weed without suffering any of the consequences for it, because I am not one of those people. If I smoke a bunch of weed, I am going to lose my absolute mind. I've lost it twice in dangerous situations, um, and it has not ended well for me. It eventually fixed itself after a lot of self advocacy and therapy and all that, but like I had to switch jobs because I lost all integrity in front of my old coworkers because I said a bunch of crazy shit to them. All when I was psychotic, I have cut contact with quite a lot of my extended family because of all the shit I said to them when I was psychotic. Although that was somewhat justified, and I'll get into all that in a future episode. And at the end of the day, I cannot allow the Islamic Republic and the barbaric ideology that they have cultivated over the past 48 years to affect my life anymore. That is like my form of resistance against this regime, is to keep myself mentally sane. Another form of resistance is getting on social media and talking about the Islamic Republic and all their crimes against humanity, which when I smoke marijuana, I get really self conscious about that. And I look at my own videos and I'm like, who are you to sit in front of a camera and tell people about Iran and the Islamic Republic? Like, literally, who are you? You're just a completely random person. And yet, several people have messaged you saying that you've educated them on Iran, which is so insanely bizarre to me and something I'm really grateful for. And I've been rambling for a while, but that is the long and short of my relationship with marijuana and the effect that disasters in Iran have on my mental health, and how it is my responsibility to combat that and not let events on the other side of the world lead me on a path of self destruction, because I will not be useful to anyone if I'm in a psych ward. Which is not a fun place to be. I'll get into all that in the future. But I've been rambling for some time, so I'm going to end the video here. I didn't respond to any of the comments under my last YouTube video, which is not good behavior of me, but I will try to respond to anything that you guys leave under this one. So if you've watched till the end, please leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys next time.